Hello again, everyone. I'll let you kind of catch up a little bit if you like. This is O'Neill live at 6:30 Eastern on Monday afternoon. I hope you'll join us. We have a few tips to hand around, and I would accept your advice, criticism, suggestions, whatever the case might be. And if you'd like to join us and we get something out of it, then all the better. What do you say? Okay. It's springtime, and it's time to go fishing. It's time to take a kid fishing. You know, and I tell you that every day, every time we're on the air. We always talk about taking and getting youngsters involved in the outdoors, and we certainly should. Now, today, I have a couple of things for you to think about. And what led me to this is when I used to tournament bass fish a long time ago, and I never was Bassmaster quality, not even close. I won some tournaments, and I had a nice career for a few years, and then I let it go, and I didn't tournament fish anymore. Got bored with it. Okay, but one of the things that I learned and then taught myself about, which is going to lead me to some tips today, is during the tournament day, I, as much as locating fish, I dismissed areas. I said, I don't need to go there. There's nothing there. I don't need to try it. I don't need to do that. So I wouldn't be tempted during the tournament day to go do that. You follow? So that I wouldn't, oh, what if I need to go into that southern creek down there below the river? Maybe I ought to give that a try. No. I eliminated that in my considerations for that day. Because I can tell you that if you'll follow the following and give it a try, what you will see is if you've got it's springtime, you've got a creek that feeds a long cove that goes out to the main river. Sounds ideal, doesn't it? Well, if you can pick a creek that has other creeks that feed it, then that's a signal for you, because I guarantee you, if you're a tournament guy or you and your son just want to go catch fish, I guarantee you there's 200 or 300 limits of largemouth in that creek. Now, what are some of the signals? You got something already, honey? Gail's monitoring for me. Nothing? Okay. Here are some things for you to look for that, again, separates the non-productive areas from the productive areas for you to spring fish. You're running along a long creek. You look from side to side. You're a knowledgeable fisherman. You look over, and there's a blue heron in that creek. But there's not a blue heron in that creek. Do you suppose he's as good at finding fish as you are? He's way better. So if you look into that creek and there's a or more blue herons in that creek, in the shallow waters, they're there because bait fish are there. If bait fish are there, the food chain dictates that largemouth probably, or even spots, will venture into that channel, venture into that creek. And this is kind of funny. I think it's a kind of an unusual tip. You pull into, oh man, I've got them located, man. I know they're there. There's a heron in the back of the creek. I've fished this before. The water color is just right. The temperature is 67 degrees. Man, I got it, buddy. I got it right here. This is it, okay? And you pull in there, you go slowly. Stay off that trolling motor. Just touch it a little bit now and then. Not at high speed and off, high speed and off, high speed and off. No. Nice and slow. Do you suppose the fish hear that? Absolutely. Does it put them on alert? Absolutely. Does it keep them from biting? Probably. Go slowly into that creek. And your first cast, you've got a creek in front of you, or you got a little cove in front of you, and everything is just right so far. What's your first cast? Where do you cast first? You want to know?
Absolutely.
Okay. Right in the middle of the cove. Really? Yeah, because think about it now. That current, that water that comes out of that creek into that cove, there is up top a channel. And you can see it. Do you suppose before the lake backed up that there was a channel that came out through there and went out toward the river? All indications are that there is a channel there, and it may have brush or stumps or ledges in that channel. Now, when the bass go into that creek, if it's an ideal place, do they go up and scatter out to the sides? Some do. But your first cast is in the middle of the cove. So if there's some there, you may get bit there. If you catch one out of the middle of the cove, along the ledge, along the stump, does it disturb the fish along the sides? No, they're still available to you. Your first cast is in the middle of the cove. Gosh, I can remember so many. I was in a tournament, just a company type tournament, and I was at Lake Sinclair years ago. Well, 30 years ago. And I was fishing a couple of the little coves, and another boat came in. This is during practice. And he passed me by, and he went all the way to the back of the creek, and it was flat. It was flat back there. It was like a little bay. But there was a free-flowing creek that came into that bay. And I watched him, and he wasn't fishing the banks at all. He was fishing in the middle of the bay. Oh, boy. What a lesson he taught me, because there was a creek channel in the middle of that bay. He didn't throw to the banks. He threw to the creek channel. Now think about that. When the lake backed up, doesn't matter, Sinclair, doesn't matter. When the lake backed up, and they engineered the lake, and the river started to back up, they knew what the water level was going, they being the Georgia Power or the whomever made the lake. They knew what the water level was going to be. They knew that. They're engineers. They knew when this lake fills up, the water level is going to be right here. So I'll bet you, I guarantee you, they went into this shallow water area and they cut the trees down along the edge of that channel, and the stumps still exist there. And as you can think about a creek now that you've seen in the woods, think about a creek that's not associated with the lake, and the creek meanders through the woods, and there are trees that grow there, and as the current goes around those trees, do you suppose it routes out underneath those stumps a little bit and makes a ledge? Yes, it does. So in that bay that day that I saw him fishing, I learned a lesson that there's stumps and curves and ledges in that little spot. I'll be fair with you now. When I saw him leave, I looked him up out on the lake. He had a very distinctive boat. Won't call his name, it doesn't matter. And I said, if you don't mind, I have a question for you. I saw what you were doing. I know it's probably very productive, I'm interested in it. Do you mind if I go there tomorrow during the tournament? Be my guest. I won't be on the lake tomorrow. I'm not in the tournament. Proceed. I won the next day. I did. I won that next day. My first 3 casts, I had 15 pounds. And my partner, back then you drew partners, my partner in the back, he's trying to reach the bank. Oh, man, we're a long way from the bank. Cool out, man. The fish are in the channel. There you are. Yes, ma'am.
Someone asked or suggested that's called marking a pattern.
That's pattern fishing. That is correct. Yes.
Milton says that turtle grabbling season is just around the corner.
Okay.
And he also said the first thing you do is throw a handful of corn in the channel. So there. I didn't know there was a season on turtle grabbling.
It's just if the water's warm enough for you to get in it.
Oh, okay.
I think.
Well, I don't know.
So anyway, if that idea, that lesson, that experience that I'm passing along to you works for you enough, that sounds pretty good. I think I'll try that. And if it does and it works and you do it and it works, put that in your pocket. Because when I was there that day, and I stayed in that channel all day because it wasn't 200 yards long. I stayed there all day, and I caught all the fish I could out of that one channel. I didn't want anybody else going in there. I knew I was going to win. I had 20-something pounds of fish, and my partner had 12 because I knew exactly where to cast. And I almost forgot my point. But you can repeat that. I wonder how many places in lakes all over from Texas to North Carolina, I wonder how many reservoirs that situation occurs or exists. It does. And I know my point that I forgot. When I was there, out on the outer edge of that area, fishing in that channel, I remember it's kind of comical for me and my partner that day because we were teaching each other. I was teaching him. Okay. 5 times people came in there and stopped out on the points farther out into the creek and fished and left. And there I was back there at about 4 feet of water with the channel at 6 feet, throwing crankbaits and spinnerbaits. I'd roll a spinnerbait up on that 3-foot level and let it drop down into that channel. Boom. Works.
Maybe they were waiting on you to leave.
Gil says they were waiting on me to leave. Well, good. Hey, that's not exclusive to O'Neill that knows that. I found it out from someone else. But I paid him tribute by saying, I'm going to go in there. If you're not, do you mind if I follow you? Because I saw you catch fish, and I reasoned it out and said, oh boy. And I have done that exact same thing many times. And you can too. Okay. Anything else?
Okay. See, Michael Partridge says not to mention that a warm rain can cause runoff and the bait fish move up into the fresh water.
That is correct. I am not fresh water that becomes clear. Fresh water that's the natural food chain setup. I am not good enough when there's been here in the last few days here in North Georgia and across the South. We've had tornadoes, gully washers, frog stranglers, whatever you want to call them. And the lake, the last time I drove over Lake Lanier's muddy, which is very rare. And many of the lakes are. I'm not good enough to fish fresh, muddy water. I'm just not. But I'm good enough to fish where the clear is coming in behind that muddy water. And I'm good enough to fish the outer edge of that mud line. Did the fish leave? No. They're still there. That tree that's along an edge of a channel at 40 feet that had 100 crappie in it because the muddy water came in, believe me, those crappie are still there. You just can't catch them. This is not as hard as it looks.
Are they still there now?
Right now, they're getting bigger and fatter.
Seriously.
Absolutely.
And that's been years ago.
Yeah, sure.
They stay in the same area.
Well, they die off, they got a life, and they leave and they spawn, and other crappie come out there and live in that tree, live under that dock, live in that along the edge of that channel. But if you'll keep that in mind, to see, if you're a tournament guy or you're a weekend fisherman, you now have something else to investigate. You now have something else to try. Something else that, if you trust me, it'll work. It's worked for me many times. I was fortunate enough to win a championship or two. Again, I want to tell you, I'm not a Bassmaster caliber fisherman. I'm just a local guy with a big mouth. And I got on radio and I tell everybody about it. Why are you laughing? Okay. And
Because
yeah, right.
somebody says they go on vacation.
Yeah.
This time of year.
The fish go on vacation?
Yeah. Something that says, tell us about, I think he's saying, tell us about crappie fishing. F-I-S-S-I-O-N, fishing. I had to think about
Well,
that.
at this water temperature, the crappie, and I've told you this before, and I think it's funny, and it's not original with me. I heard it from someone else. In Georgia, a 2-pound crappie is a slab. In Alabama, a 2-pound crappie, a 2-pound crappie is a slob, and that's true. Okay, but they leave their deep water haunts and they elevate in the water column. If they're under a dock at 40 feet and the water temperature is 48, when the water temperature gets to be 65, not only do they leave that area and go to the banks so they can squirt their eggs out on hard surfaces, but they rise in the water column underneath the dock. They don't all leave. No, they don't. But they can, see, they have to have a hard surface to squirt the eggs out. That's why, quite often, like now, when the water temperature gets to be 70 degrees, that's why around the bridges and on rocky banks and rocky points, that's why fishing is good there. Want me to tell you why? Of course you do. Because that hard surface, the rocks at a bridge, that hard surface, that's where the shad spew their eggs. They're sticky, they're tacky, and the females spew the eggs out against that hard surface on the bridge pilings and on the rocks. And the no-account males, they come by and have their fun, and they have fertilized eggs. So where should you be fishing when the water temperature is 70 degrees? Where should you be fishing for largemouth bass? Well, along those rocks, along those bridge pilings, because the bass are there, because the shad are there, because the shad are there because of the hard surface, and the hard surface is perfect for them to spew the eggs out. Yes, ma'am.
You're not talking about fishing on bedding fish. Right?
No. I disavow catching a bedding bass.
Yes.
It's tempting, I understand, and it's just my opinion. You see this big 6, 8, 9, 10-pound female on the bed. The male has already made a bed, and she's on the bed, and she's spawning. Resist that temptation. And you say, well, O'Neill, I caught her, but I put her back. Did she go back to the bed? You don't really know. She may not. So what is that result? What is the result of that? Okay. The result is if you remove or out of a bed in which she puts out hundreds of thousands of eggs and it's fertilized, out of that bed there will result in a couple of years 100 12-inch bass. So if you catch her and tire her out and disturb that bedding process, or you catch her and keep her, you just caught 100 bass out of that lake. That's not so good for the population, is it? Resist that temptation. Take a higher a higher road, okay? Hey, there's a bedding bass right there. Isn't that great? I'm not going to fish for her. Now, if you're in the Bassmasters Classic, that's a different story, okay? You win the Bassmasters Classic, it's probably worth $500,000. O'Neill, I would catch that fish, or I would try. But for you, the weekend guy, especially if it's not a giant reservoir, it's just a lake, you got a bedding bass, leave her alone. Don't catch her. Don't even try. Okay, yes ma'am, you got something?
We were going to talk about what this horrible weather we've had up here in North Georgia has done to the wildlife, if anything. What has it done to the turkeys?
What is the violent weather and tornadoes and so forth, unless nothing really, unless the tree fell on the turkey. He'll get over it.
Do they just go get in a tree and
They just
hold on?
correct. Bad weather, they just hunker down. A bear gets up underneath a bank. Hey, they've seen it before. There's nothing for you to do. There's nothing for them to do except they'll miss a meal. I observed one time from a great tree stand down in East Georgia, and there was a small 8-pointer, okay? And he came in from my right-hand side, and it was pouring down rain. I don't know what in the hell I was doing there. I don't know what I was doing there. But, I'm sitting there, and I've got my camera, and I've got my rifle and everything. Well, I've got my muzzle loader. I can't remember that time I used a rifle. Anyway, I have my muzzle loader, and a small 8-pointer comes in, and, of course, I watch him. And, man, it is pouring rain. It's raining an inch an hour at least. And he comes into the little food plot there, just a wheat plot, and he beds down right in the middle. He's not under a tree. He's not looking for shelter. He beds down and curls up like a dog and just sits there in the pouring rain. And I think, knucklehead, why don't you go over in the woods somewhere so you won't get rained on so hard? He don't care. And then all of a sudden, he gets up, shakes off like a dog, walks about 20 feet, beds down again. It's still raining like anything. They can stand it a lot better than we can. They have small brains, but go ahead.
I think we've mentioned on previous shows that up here in the mountains where we live, we have a lot of wildlife up here, and we had what they were referring to as the neighborhood pet.
Oh,
it was
okay.
It was a small doe, I guess, and somebody put a collar on it actually, and they were feeding it. It would come up to, if you saw it out on the side of the road, it would come up to the car and you could, touch it. It came up to you and our next door neighbor in our driveway a few weeks ago.
Yes.
It just came right up to you. And you ran it off like you were supposed to. But
Correct.
People were feeding this cute little booger. He really was. Well, as would happen, because he'd been in the road with cars.
He would get close to the cars. When the car... Think about this. She was trained to listen to a car. Aha! Food. There may be somebody in that car that will stop and feed me. So that sounds good. She's now dead.
And the car is totaled.
Mm-hmm. Car's totaled. The doe is dead. Boy, that worked out great, didn't it? No, white-tailed deer are not pets. They're around your house, run them off. Hey, we live in the mountains of North Georgia. Very fortunate. We have bears, possums, raccoons, coyotes, turkeys, all kind of birds, wildlife, okay? They have all been here and doing very well. Well, except for the coyotes. They've all been here for the last 11,700 years, since the completion, if you will, of the last ice age. They don't need for us to feed them. Leave them alone. Yes, ma'am.
I'm just.
You're
shaking
nodding
my head.
yes?
Yes, yes.
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 The last, I'm not going to get started. Last ice age was 250 million years ago, and it ended 11,700 years ago. They don't need our help. They've been here for 11,000 years. Bears and all those other critters. Leave them alone.
The other
Or
thing
you can hunt them, that's fine. Big deal. You take 1 or 2 a year, what? So what? Nothing. Yes.
The other thing that someone had put a collar on that doe.
Mm-hmm.
It was a bright orange. I'm sure probably maybe to let hunters know that maybe this was somebody's pet and don't shoot it.
Could
but
be.
the bad thing about it is, and why they discourage it, is because they get caught on it and they strangle. They
Oh.
strangle themselves. They hang
Could be.
themselves.
Could be.
No, it's not a could be.
Could be.
It's a fact.
Yeah. Well,
It's a fact. Jack.
they don't all get hung that way,
I know, but
some of them
it's
do.
a fact that they can.
That's a fact.
Yes,
Jack.
Jack.
Gale. Fact, Jack
Do
Gale.
not.
Don't. Hey, listen.
Yeah.
Stand aside. Enjoy. Binoculars. Cameras. Cameras on your cell phone. Listen.
Somebody
It's-
said crawfish boiling out of the clear blue sky. If I had some crawfish to boil, I think I would do that.
Oh, man. Yeah.
Wouldn't that be good?
Yeah, crawfish boil. Ooh. Oh, which reminds me, if you can, I don't have a source, but I bet you could find it. And somebody in Louisiana could send you some live crawfish. If you would do that, get them to send you a couple of dozen live crawfish. And the next time you go to your favorite lake, and you're going to fish around the docks, which is a natural place. That's the dock pattern. Use some light line and hook up some of those live crawfish and throw it underneath that dock. You got 24, you're going to get 24 bites and probably catch 24 fish. Think about that crawfish swimming up underneath that dock. Every fish within 8 feet is going to go after him big time.
Are you going to show the buffalo?
Somebody wants to know about the buffalo?
No.
Oh, you do.
I know that you said you were going to. know that-
Let me see. What time is it?
I think you have a few minutes.
Okay. I'll show you the buffalo before we leave.
You better go do it now.
Huh?
You better do it now if you're going to show it.
Okay.
See if you can walk
Let's
it
see
over
if I
there.
can. We're going to take a look at a buffalo that I took in Kansas, I think. I'm trying to get up here without falling down. A buffalo I took in Kansas about 10 or 12 years ago. It weighed, it was a staged hunt. I mean, what can I tell you? I was doing a show, and the buffalo, the poor guy, he walked up, and I shot him. And there he is. I shot him at 135 yards with a 50 caliber muzzle loader, and he weighed 2,600 pounds. But I will tell you that I had him processed and sent here. I don't waste wildlife at all. It's tough for you to get to see how big that guy is, but he weighed 2,600 pounds. Okay, let me go back and get to my spot.
It showed up pretty good.
It came all right, didn't it?
Yeah. You didn't show his face, but.
Well, he looks like every other buffalo.
And David Cargyle, he does not have an orange collar on.
I've got some aggravating fans, okay? They just can't stand it. And Cargyle is one of them. Rascal. Okay, where are we now? In fishing and hunting and all right, turkey season in Georgia has begun in earnest, and without the long process of telling you about it, I would urge you to listen if you can. This coming Saturday morning, the 3rd day of April, I will have a recorded interview with Emily Rushton and Michael Chamberlain. Now, both of these people they're doctors, I think, and they are with the Department of Natural Resources, and they are scientists. And they will discuss with me, if you're listening that day, that's this coming Saturday morning, 4 to 6 a.m. on WSB and all over the country. They will discuss the declining population of the eastern wild turkey. His population is going down, and what we have to do with it, or what can we do for it. It's stuff I didn't know about, and you can learn something by listening to the show. I'm taking Saturday, Gail and I are taking Saturday off this coming Saturday. It's, as you can well imagine, it's kind of tiresome to get up at 2:30 in the morning on Saturday. And we've been doing it for 28 years. So I take some time off and record some shows. And this weekend is a fabulous one. You will learn about the population of the eastern wild turkey if you listen this Saturday morning. Mm-hmm. Yes, ma'am. Anything?
No, that's pretty much it. And the clock went off.
Oh, it's time?
So it's time, yes.
It's time. Thank you for joining, O'Neill. You're a valued guest, and we enjoy doing this because, as it is with, hopefully, more often than not, with the television show after 40 years or the radio show after 28 years, if you watch and if you listen like today, if it's over, then, I just learned something, or something was confirmed for me, or I was reminded of a tip that I will know more about fishing, I will know more about hunting, and very well may make the day more productive. If the productivity level determines your enjoyment, which I don't think it always should, then maybe you can be more productive. It's a great idea. Throw it in the middle of the cove first. Fishing the channel in a big flat bay. Took me a long time to learn that, and now you know it. Anything else?
Well, just Milton says he's going to decline the turkey population by one more on Saturday.
Okay. Good luck to you all for this spring, for this turkey season, and what else can I say? If you're too busy to go fishing and take a child along, you're too busy. I'll see you guys next Monday afternoon. I, God Woodrow. It's been quite a party. I'll see you then.